Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha Bean of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Hey, this is Jimmy Harris from the band Jiminy. Hi.
Well, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on and tell me a little bit about the beginning, growing up, your childhood, and like what that
Sure.
was like and how did you kind of find your way into music?
Yeah, I was born in Philadelphia. I'm the youngest of three kids. I'm the only son, and I had two older sisters.
Nice.
At my earliest memory was we had a little toy piano, and I would just sit down and bang on this little toy piano. And I remember sitting in the basement, and my eldest sister had a lot of 45s, a lot of records, and I remember the first time hearing Strawberry Fields Forever, and I remember hearing the Beach Boys for the first time and
Mm.
Led Zeppelin, and she had a box of records, and I just was exposed to a lot of great music early on, and I was also exposed to like a lot of disco. I,
Nice.
I had a little record player in my room, and we had the disco version of Beethoven's Fifth, and I remember listening to that. But I was given it when I turned 5.
Mhm.
My father said to me, "All right, you can either get a guitar, or you can uh, uh, join the ice hockey team." And I had to make a decision. And I think I made the right decision, because I don't think in any there would be no scenario where I would have ended up as a professional hockey player. So I I chose the guitar, and I started taking lessons, and then I started taking piano lessons, and I loved all the 80s stuff. I was listening to Def Leppard
Oh
and
yeah.
Journey and Prince
Mhm.
and Bruce Springsteen, and just like all the new wave stuff, a bunch of synth stuff. That stuff is kind of like going into my growing brain at the time. And I just kind of sat in the basement, throughout, middle school and high school with the guitar and the tape player, and just, playing songs, rewinding them, playing them again, rewinding them with the guitar and figuring them out. And that was
Oh,
kind of like where I got my self-esteem from, was from,
nice.
from getting good at something.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. No, that's beautiful. I because I always think about, music is just such a healing thing. I love listening to like music, and it does get you into like get you through certain parts, like eras of your life, and the fact that you make music, and it's awesome. Like, wow, I love the song, by the way,
Thank you.
apocalypse
Thank you.
dance party. Now let's get a little bit into that. Where
Mhm.
did that song come from? And I mean, what was that process like? I mean, the title in
Yeah.
itself is very interesting.
I'll tell you, I was for a while, I kind of was kicking around the scene for a while, playing in different bands, playing
Mhm.
like, I was playing guitar, playing bass, doing a little touring, and then I started to write more songs. And the songs that I wrote were a little more like sad and heartfelt. And it wasn't quite the right fit for the rock bands that I was in with my friends. And the music was a little more personal, and maybe a little, more like chamber pop
Mhm.
oriented, a little more complicated. And so I was kind of kicking around, going into different scenes, like trying to learn jazz and exploratory jazz and going up to Woodstock and workshops. And, I was going to different studios with a hard drive, just trying to get stuff recorded with different producers and musicians. And then I was also going to like open mic nights,
Nice.
3 or 4 times a week, just playing my songs and meeting people. And just like, it was the community of it. And I ended up, like just doing a bunch of stops and starts. But during the pandemic, I just kind of resolved to say, okay, I'm going to like finish this first project of these 10 songs that I had written, which were all kind of intimate, personal songs.
Mhm.
And they were all, I can only describe them as like, the only kind of like recurring theme was they were all things like that felt sort of nostalgic
Mhm.
to a period of time, but across a genre.
Right.
So like, Simon and Garfunkel, but the Bee Gees also, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
maybe some like craft work in there as well. So all stuff from like a period of time that was nostalgic, but stuff that was like sort of like coming out of me, melodies and styles. And I was putting it together. And as soon as I got my second shot, my second Moderna shot, I
Mhm.
I I I was I was working with other people to get my stuff into Ableton Live, and I started to map stuff out, and then I was going and working with different producers. And after about a year, I eventually made it to a place called The Bunker
Mhm.
in Brooklyn, which I got to give a shout out to The Bunker. It's one of the most amazing and supportive studios out
Nice.
there. They're wonderful people. They're the nicest people that work there. And from a creative standpoint, like things just got done. Like
Yeah.
it was super efficient. And I went in there with the hard drive to clean stuff up. And then 4 months later, I was done the album. Now,
Nice.
one of the songs on the album was this song I had written called The Phoenix. And
Mhm.
it was really kind of a sad song. Like basically we're waiting for the Phoenix to rise,
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a breakup song or it's like a broken family song maybe,
Mhm.
or it could be like, the world is falling apart song. Um, but I wrote this song called The Phoenix, and it was kind of like there was something about the melody, and it was kind of a country tune, but there was some inflection in the melody that reminded me of like like a Dolly Parton song from the 70s. And
Interesting.
and I already had kind of a folk song on the record that I really loved. And so I was like, what do I do with this? And I remembered that the Bee Gees had written a song for Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers called Islands in the Stream.
Mm.
And I was like, well, what if I took this song and turned it into kind of like a disco song? So I did exactly that. I put a disco beat to it with a lot of percussion and, a funky bass line and some wonderful vintage synthesizers. And I had an amazing, amazing background vocalist on it. Uh, and it just totally cooked. And I realized, wow, I just wrote a really, really cool dance song. And the producer said to me, he goes, why don't you write more dance music? Because like this is what the world needs right now. This is like
Yeah.
July of 2022. And I
Mm.
and I thought about that and I was like, okay, well, like I'm from Philadelphia and the proto disco music was the Huff and Gamble music from Philadelphia. And so I released the album in July, and then I, I I remember going to like a family thing down the shore and just putting on my headphones and walking on the beach and just listening to the sounds of Philadelphia, old school funk and
Yeah.
soul music, just to get it into my blood and into my system for about a month without writing anything.
Wow, I
And then
love that.
and then I sat down at the piano and I had these kind of like chord figures that I was working out, these kind of these kind of like funky um bombastic kind of like soul things that were coming out. But then I was playing around with some chords on top of that, and something sounded really ominous and foreboding about all of that. There was something really kind of dark and and scary in the sounds of the chords that I was playing. And I was kind of messing around with that. And as I was doing that, the producer messaged me and said, "Hey, uh, let's get this party started," meaning let's get to work. And as soon as when I read that, I went, "Oh, apocalypse dance party. That's what this is. Apocalypse dance party." Because and there's the apocalyptic theme
Mm-hmm.
is ubiquitous everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I go on Netflix or Amazon Prime, like every other series or narrative is about some like end of the world dystopian post-apocalyptic theme. So it, there's something about this that really resonates with people.
Yeah.
And once I figured out, like, okay, there's so much here to pull from. There's so much in the ether to make and to do something that's maybe a little ironic and sarcastic. Because, I mean, I'm a songwriter. I'm not a DJ, and I just thought, okay, if I can write something that's super fun, but also super kind of dark and sarcastic, that might fit in with my personality. So
Mm.
I just kind of started working it from there. And I went down the rabbit hole of the whole apocalyptic theme. I mean, I was reading things online, academic papers. I was, looking at, different natural disaster scenarios. I was looking at the biblical and mythological stories of Armageddon in different cultures. And I was like thinking deeply about it for a while and just like distilling all of it. And then like out came just the silliest lyrics ever. And it kind of reminded me of like music from the early 2000s that I refer to as Jello shots at the Jersey Shore music. And I remember I was going to a club with some friends, and it wasn't my scene really, but like I was just sort of like observing all the people in this club doing Jello shots and listening to like dance music and party music from that era. And I was like, in the back of my mind, thought, it would just be so much fun to write a song like this. So, out came the first song, Apocalypse Dance Party. And I basically arranged it so that the band would come in and record the core rhythm section to tape, because I wanted it to have that 70s feel to it, where tape is just a little bit warmer and more forgiving, especially on the drums. And then like add the layers of guitars and vintage synthesizers, a lot of like this thing called the Prophet 5, which is this amazing synthesizer that's used everywhere. And this silly sort of narrative of talking about, conflating these ideas, these opposites of ideas, really celebration and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was combining these two concepts together, it felt like it was like I smashed them together, and it felt like there was some truth that was coming out
Right.
as I was smashing these concepts together. And I can't explain what it was, but I felt it.
Right. I like that. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do is feel it. You know when it's right, when you just feel it. Like I have a film background, so when my process of making films, it's like I don't just it just comes to me, and I just know. So I just go with that feeling.
Tell me,
You know.
when you make films, like when you know that feeling, is it the composition of the frame? Is there just something inside of, is it a story that you have to tell? Is it a feeling or a
It's a feeling for sure. It's like something that lingers with me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I gotta get this out, because it just like won't go away, if I don't get it out. Like I'll get up. Sometimes I have them, when I know it's something that I need to talk about, or that is like that inner voice that everybody has. Is like that thing that guides you throughout your life, that's like, okay, go here, go left. You just know, or you just listen to it, and it's like 9 times out of 10, like it's like that's yeah, like that's that voice. That's how I feel like in my film world, is like I'll wake up and I'm like in the middle of the night and I'll write it down. I'm like, okay, and just a word or whatever that is. And then it'll just like later as time go on, maybe, 2, 3 days later, something else happens and it just kind of points into that direction of like, okay, this is what I need to talk about. This is what I need to do. It just continues to unfold for me that way. It's really weird, but I like it. I do like it. Um, I'm curious about what you said I read your write up. You said something about you said something natural disasters and technology are it's understandable to feel humanity has passed the point of no return.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like humanity has failed us in a way?
I I I don't know is
You
the
don't.
honest answer.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if you have a fear of heights.
No, I love it.
Okay. I have
I know what you mean.
I have a fear of heights.
Yeah.
And like when I'm high up on something, I look, I feel on edge and shaky and nervous because I'm scared that I'm going to get hurt.
Mm.
And when I look down and I see the ground, 50 or 100 or 1,000 feet down, like there's this feeling inside of me, like I want to jump, but it's
Mm.
not because I want to commit suicide. It's because on the ground there is safety,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also destruction. And my feeling is that people who gravitate or subscribe to um, prophecies of doom do that because they're looking for some type of comfort, right?
Mm.
They're looking
Mm-hmm.
for some type of control.
Right.
And also, I think it's a reflection of our collective fears and everything we've gone through. But in the recent years, right, we see these themes. They just they keep lingering with every generation, with every eon. For as long as humans have been writing down stories, I mean, there's always been stories of the end of the world. It's the end of the world is a never-ending, it's a never-ending fascination for humans.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, I don't. I hope. My hope is this: uh, is that humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a species, we can sort of course correct some of the more self-inflicted as existential threats like war and global warming. I really hope. Yeah, I was reading a book called. It's a kind of a science fiction book,
Mm-hmm.
but it's called the what is it? Oh, something. Can't remember the name of it. Something for Ministry for the Future. The
Mm.
minute and it takes a very real possible scenarios related to global warming and heat waves in parts of the world where people actually couldn't live through a heat wave that was a week long
Mm.
if the ambient temperature was 130 degrees. What they would do is they would go into a body of water like a river or lake, and then they would die.
Wow.
um so that's a very real scenario, and the book has a positive take that we actually can do things to avoid that kind of disaster. So I do think that there are things, and I hope that our species can survive.
Right.
Uh, if an asteroid's coming, then there's not much that we'll be able to do.
Right.
Um, so we may be on the precipice of some final human extinction, but not knowing is scarier than if you have to know, then it's easier to subscribe to the negative than it is to hold out hope, because you don't want to be so disappointed and caught by surprise when the world ends.
Not yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right about that. I actually do find it fascinating. Like that is a thing that the world is very fascinated with of like, the end of the world, like when is that gonna happen or how is it gonna happen? Or, everyone has their theories or just life in itself. Do you do you do you know like I mean, look, we're all going through a journey of life and everyone has different perspectives and ideas and theories of everything. But do you know your purpose? Do you think you found your purpose in life
I
ever
don't
yourself?
know. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have I don't know what my purpose is.
Okay.
I think maybe I don't know, maybe like I know people want to define their purpose and like they go through processes
Yeah.
to really understand and really define what their purpose is. I don't know that I have
Okay.
really gone through that soul searching. I want to live a peaceful life. I
Okay.
want I want to help people, in in locally, like in my immediate life. Um, I don't know that I've like know how to scale what I do to, the larger, greater global community. Some people have, and I think that's phenomenal.
Mhm.
People that start, not for profits that bring fresh water to villages, those people absolutely amaze me. People that go, to Nepal and save orphans, right?
Yeah.
People that they really have found what really drives them. I know I love making music,
Mhm.
and I know I'm trying to make the best music I possibly can, but that's kind of self-serving in a way. I mean, if I make music that I love and people come along for the ride because they like it, that's great. But so I don't know if that's a purpose or if that's self-serving.
Mm.
Um,
That's
what
honest. That's really honest. And I appreciate that answer. I don't think everybody knows. I think we're all, that's what the journey is all about,
have
until we're dead.
have you exactly have you felt? I mean, you are you're the host of this show. I mean, you must speak to so many interesting people and have so many interesting conversations.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
I think what I like about it is that, I think it's what works for you, and I feel like a lot of people, we grow up thinking, yes, that whatever you do for your career is your purpose, or I feel like that is the catalyst, right? I think it is something that, you'll find it within that. For me, it's always, I love film, I've always loved it when I was a child and as I grew up and, now that
I love film too.
oh yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Absolutely love it. I obsess over film. I watch videos. I like got Premiere Pro and like my head
Yeah.
exploded.
I love that you like it. I was going to ask you about like because I know I read something that said you're really really super excited about releasing videos for the album, and I'm curious now that you said you love film. Do you have any concepts and things and ideas for?
I got a subscription. So the first thing I did was like, all right, I could spend a whole lot of money and like produce produce new content, or I could, let's see what I can do on the budget. So I actually I went to Adobe Stock and I
Nice.
started doing a bunch of stuff, and I started getting a bunch of like really interesting B-roll. and,
Nice.
and then I found the most ridiculous public domain footage of a disaster film from the 1930s that actually bankrupted the studio. I think the studio was trying to compete with RKO with the success of King Kong, and they
Mhm.
created this absolutely absurd. And I found the video, and it's in the public domain, and I took it and I started to chop it up and mix it in with the disaster theme, and then I found an unbelievably wicked and dark I don't know what you would call it. It's a narrative film, but it's shot in the style of a documentary from the
Ooh.
1920s. It's a Swedish film called Haxan. I think it's
Ooh.
pronounced Haxan, Haxan. Some of the most incredible visuals I have ever seen. And it's a silent film, but
Oh, I love that.
it's fascinating. And so I started cutting that stuff together. And then also with like sort of like government footage of nuclear tests and stuff like that, on the theme of doomsday. And
Yeah.
so I started to put that together into narratives and watching videos on eye lines and cutting scenes and blending scenes together so that somebody's eye line and goes with the next scene. I really got sort of into the craft and the construction of the editing part of it. So I
Nice.
absolutely love film, and I'm a huge film nerd, and have been ever since I was a kid.
I love that. Well, I'm excited to see the visuals. I'm super excited for you. And I mean, great music, and I can't wait. Can't wait to check that out when it comes out. So,
Where can where can I see your stuff?
oh, it's you can just Google my name, Meosha Bean, and
Yeah.
everything will pop up, like films that I've done, like documentaries, which are my favorite. But I somehow got into the genre of the horror filmmaker, so now that's what I'm known for. But I'm like, no, I don't think I'm just horror. But hey, I'll
You,
keep it.
I mean, like I was reading an article about what was the movie in that came out maybe like 7 or 8 years ago? Hereditary.
I love that movie. It was great.
That movie to me, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
Ooh, oh God, there's so many. Definitely Hereditary is one of like definitely up there because I just loved how the storytelling was and how it wasn't predictable to me. Um and I just really love this how the pacing of the story. And it wasn't it's very haunting. For me, the reason why I got into film was Alfred Hitchcock. I love the birds.
Mm,
I just love everything like the old school. I love that. And he did short films. Alfred Hitchcock Presents is why I started doing short films when I was
mm,
like 16 years old. And then I progressed and I was like, I love this. And I got a YouTube following. And then I was getting hundreds of thousands, millions of views at such a young age. And I was like, well, I want to continue doing this.
wow.
There's something to this. And I just kept doing it. But that's why I initially got into it. But then I went to school for cinematography because of
Oh,
Roger Deakins. Roger
mm,
Deakins is the best cinematographer of
yeah.
all times.
Yeah.
He's done Sicario, Prisoners. I mean, this guy,
The last Blade Runner,
oh my God,
a-
so good.
all the stuff with the Coen brothers.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like on another level.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so hard to say. I will say my favorite, something I would always watch, ooh, all the time would
Yeah.
definitely be, ooh, I'm gonna say, have you seen Rear Window?
Yes.
Oh, I love that movie.
Now
Love.
I was going to ask you because so much of Hitchcock's work was during the Hays period, Hays
Yeah.
Code, right?
Hmm.
And then when that lightened up a little bit, he was able to make like more edgy stuff. But what do you think of Brian De Palma?
Oh, great. Oh my gosh.
Brian De Palma made a film that was basically Rear Window
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s that was so wild. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
It
what
was
was that movie? I think I know exactly you're talking about too. Oh my God. I know exact and it's yes. Oh,
Body Double. Body
yes.
Double.
Yep, you're right. That's it. That's it. Oh my God. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I love that stuff. I love all that stuff. That's so great. Yeah, well, I mean, like he really he had a whole language in the way he blocked and moved the camera and long scenes and told the story and all of the tension. Like
Oh man.
we knew what was happening, but the people in on the screen didn't. I mean, so much there, really.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And Melanie Griffin, I mean, come on. I mean, she's been around forever. I mean, it's a classic movie for
Yeah.
sure. I
Yeah.
I could talk about movies forever, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back on how awesome you are. I'm really curious about this journey of just life and music and all of it. What keeps you motivated, during the low times?
Yeah. I mean, it's I find it's a balance. I have a very, very stressful corporate job
Ah.
that is kind of soul sucking. And I have to, I can't, I could never give up or abandon the creative side of my life. But it's sort of like the the more I stress out in my day job,
Mhm.
then like the more I kind of like create at a later time. Like if I have 3 months of deadlines and real focused like dry stuff that I'm
Mhm.
working on, then that will sort of like I mean, this is a pattern I've recognized that'll sort of like balance out months or even years later with with a kind of like a flurry of creative stuff. I think it's like the mind. I don't know how it works, really. I think maybe just the intense concentration on things that you don't want to concentrate on exhausts you to the point that, like, and then all of a sudden the ideas start to flow from somewhere else, from the creative side or from the more emotional side. But I think it's work. I think sitting down and creating takes just the same type of work. It's just sitting down and banging stuff out and working on stuff and working with collaborators and talking about it and getting into it and figuring out what is the concept or what am I trying to say? What's funny? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. To me, I don't want to think about it too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just got to force myself to. I think a lot of people that create, they're just, kind of workaholics.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Obsessive, maybe they're a little obsessive.
I am. I definitely am. I have to like tell myself, okay, no, we're taking a break. Okay, we're taking a break. I have a fun question for you. Well, I mean, there's no wrong answer, but I always ask every guest this question.
Yep.
And the three levels of power, money, power, or respect. And which one would you choose and why?
Oh, wow. Money, power, or respect? Well, you can't really buy respect with money.
Very true.
And and if the people respect you for your money, then maybe that's not the right kind of respect. And you can't, and power might inspire fear, but maybe not respect. But with respect, you can work with people and you can influence them and help them, and maybe you can make some money in the process. If people respect you, I think respect is, I think respect is the best.
I like
If
that.
that's the question. Yeah, I money is great. I'm not gonna put money down. But if you have so much money, can you have too much money? Yes, you can actually have too much money that it does you no good.
Yeah.
If you have more money than you can spend, it's an accumulation of something that's not doing anything for any purpose or any good. And it's the same with power. You can only have so much power. We're limited. Our lives are limited. We're limited in how strong we are and how long we live. But, respect's like a little more abstract, I think.
Definitely. I like a great answer. Great answer. And a fun one. If you could perform with anyone, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh my God. Bowie.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Bowie represents like so much that is good in the world.
Yeah.
About humanity.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. 100%. I like that. That's great. Any advice you want to give to anyone that wants to do what you're doing? And what would that be?
Yeah, just like, just find what you love, and just like, just go and do it. Go and do it maybe a little bit at a time. Don't, there's always going to be blockers to anything that you want to do. There's always going to be a blocker, but there's always something that you can do. If you have a creative spark or an idea, just follow it, even if you don't think the idea is worth anything. And even if it fails, so what? Even if nobody ever hears it, it's just so what. Just if you want to create something, then go and create it. If you want to write some song, then go and write a song, and love that song because it's yours and you made it and nobody else did, so you did it. And who cares? I mean, at the end of your life, it doesn't even matter. So just have fun and enjoy it and create stuff, and don't worry about what other people think.
Love that. That's great. Great advice. Thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media so they can follow your musical
I'm
journey?
I am awful on social media. It's I honestly am awful. I have to actually take a look here at what my Instagram account is. I think it's Jiminy Music. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Jiminy Music is my Instagram. And then I also have a Facebook, which I have no idea. And then I have a TikTok, which I have no idea. I'm definitely not a social media person. I know I should be. And I have a cousin who's helped me out. She actually set up the Instagram and TikTok sites, but I actually have no idea what I'm doing there. I've been on Facebook, so it's just, I don't know.
I love it.
But I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Music, I'm on all the streaming services. And I want to put a huge shout out to the people that I've collaborated with. Um, the producer, Aaron Navisi from The Bunker, definitely like helped create this project with me. I had concepts and ideas, and he actually was able to bring them to reality. A genius with modular synthesis. We used some really interesting like vintage synthesizers, ARPs and Moogs and the Prophet 5 and Junos, and just created a lot of really complex layers. The rhythm section is the rhythm section from a band called Brazilian Girls.
Nice.
Jesse Murphy and Aaron Johnston, they are two of the most kick-ass musicians out there, and they're amazing with the dance genre. And I brought them in, and they just crushed it. This guy Frank Lacrasto is absolutely amazing on the keys. Samuel Torres was a percussionist. Jackie Real from a band called Real. She's like an EDM dance star. She did a
Nice.
lot of the vocal stuff. She's absolutely incredible and amazing to work with. So I just had just the most wonderful group of collaborators to create this stuff. And yeah, so happy that I was able to get it done.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for you and your journey. I loved it. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and just, a little bit about who you are. I really had a good time chatting with you.
I had such a great time. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to check out your movies and your film stuff. And
Definitely, definitely.
thank you for telling me about it.
Okay, for sure. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time.